I have amazing news to share. I know that you have been taking care of yourself, diving deep into self-care, putting yourself first and prioritizing yourself. And as we head into a brand new year, I want to supercharge this experience for you. But I also want to simplify things and I want to streamline your 2023. And that is why I am hosting a 7-day challenge that I want you to be a part of. Trust me when I say it is going to be easy, but so impactful. After these 7 days, you're going to feel calm. You're going to feel very clear, have that clarity, and you're also going to be very centered. But you're going to have some really big, audacious goals that you will be ready to jump into in a way that's not going to overwhelm you, but going to make you feel really, really passionate and motivated to succeed this year. What do you have to do? You're going to head to the link in the podcast notes, and you're going to sign up for my January 7-day challenge. It's taking place from January 15th to 21st. So don't worry, the kids are going to be back at school. You're going to have a few minutes to compose yourself come the new year. Starting January 15th, we're going to have one live training, and then we're going to have some recordings that you can listen to whatever time of day, 20-minute recording with a training, a lesson, and an exercise that's going to help you enter into this new year in your best light. All of the details, all the information that you need is going to be in the podcast notes, as well as that link to join. So do not delay. Press pause on this episode, check out the notes now, and join me for this 7-day challenge to help simplify, streamline, and just supercharge your year. You are not going to want to miss this. Hello, my friends. We made it through another holiday season. Huge pat on the back for you. Standing ovation. Now we're in this in-between period. We're in this limbo. And whether your holidays were super merry and super bright, or whether they were a little bit more chill, maybe you're going through some stuff, maybe they weren't as bright and merry as you had hoped. We're all kind of going through this in-between period where a lot of us were looking to decompress. We're looking to recharge. Maybe we're looking to reflect on this past year and reset as we look towards a brand new year. And that is what this episode is all about. I'm dedicating it, and we're not going to be here for too long, but I'm dedicating it to really tapping into what's going to work for you now, what is going to help you decompress and feel good as we close out this year and head into next year. And if you can see me, I'm wearing my holiday gear still. I've got my Wet Bandits sweater on. It's me, Harry Marv, a cup of tea in a Santa mug, and you. And I am so happy to be with you all. And I can't believe that we are almost at the end of a whole new year. 2022 was an incredible year, but there's been a lot going on. And so I thought that I would do something a little bit different. And I thought that I would share and give you a little inside look at what we have discussed in my mastermind group. So with that being said, let's just dive right in. Let's just get started. I was going to give you a little bit of a prequel, but I think we'll do that after the intro. So let's get started. Welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm your host, Andryanna. A few years ago, burnout nearly cost me that happy, fulfilled life that I'd always dreamed of. Every day left me feeling overwhelmed with stress at work, at home, and just with life in general. I felt like I was constantly running and couldn't catch my breath. So I embarked on a journey of finding better balance, of learning how to prioritize my own needs, of shifting my mindset to live with more ease and balance, of learning how to do more without the pressure of doing it all. And I discovered that letting go of the need for a perfect life opened up opportunities to bring in more joy. So I am sharing my experience and my learnings with you so that you don't have to struggle. I want to show by example how liberating and empowering it can be to silence expectations, to learn how to live through the chaos of work and family with grace, joy, and ease. So what do you think? Are you with me? Let's get started. Okay, so we are here. We're in this point of the year that we're kind of in the in-betweens, and you might have kids at home, you might be back at work, you might be working from home with your kids at home, you might have still family, or you might be hosting company, or you might be out of town visiting guests and relatives. And wherever you are, now is the perfect time to decompress. Right now is the perfect time to, even for brief moments and taking those small little pockets, reflect on the year that has gone by and look forward as we enter a brand new year in a way that we are going to be rested and just resetting so that we can focus and look to making next year amazing. And so I'm going to be sharing some advice that was given in a mastermind group that I am a part of. And I think this really speaks to just the full spectrum and the full gamut of just different personality types and what is going to be authentic for you. And that really goes to say that we're not all the same, you know? So what might be really helpful and supportive for one person can look completely different for another person. And so what I would love to just impart with this episode today is that I want you to think about what is going to help you in decompressing, what is going to make you feel good so that we can head into this next year and a new year, just ready to be the best version of ourselves. And it's not going to look the same for everyone. So I want to put a lens of authenticity on how we're going to look at decompressing and resetting as we finish and close out this year. And when it comes to authenticity and just being authentic about our self-care and how we choose to love ourselves, I mean, we can listen to and just try to pause and be quiet and listen to our intuition and what it is telling us. We can also feel in our gut and see what that gut instinct might be trying to impart on us, how we're feeling on any given day, and just really knowing like what might have worked in the past might not be good for right now, or what might have, been helpful for someone else is not going to be helpful for you. So just, being open to it. And so with all of this being said, you're a big girl, you got your big girl pants on, you might have your holiday sweater on like me, but I want you to really just give yourself that space to feel and to do what's right for you. So this episode kind of came about because, as I mentioned, I am part of an incredible mastermind with the most brilliant and inspirational, beautiful women. And we come together once a week online. We meet on Zoom, and we're there to support one another through business pursuits, in personal lives. We ask questions. We ask for, just advice and support. And one of the members within our group had sent us an email during the holiday season, and she was just in that overwhelm mode, and she was at the end of her tether. And she literally, I think the subject of her email was, when you're at the end of your rope. And she just threw out a call for help and said, what would you recommend if you needed help? What is going to be supportive? And so we sent replies with, what some ideas were, that things that had worked for us, some tips, some tricks, some advice. And I loved the spectrum and the gamut of what the responses were. And that's why I want to share it with you today, because whether you're in a mastermind group or not, whether you have a coach or not, whether you have, family or friends that you can lean on or not, we are all in this together. And that's why I'm here, is to create a space where you feel like you can come to find inspiration and feel supported. And so I thought I would share some of these responses with you, as well as what my responses were, and give you some advice that's going to help you really just maybe get some new ideas, remind you of what has, helped you in the past, maybe give you that inspiration, that dose of, hey, you know what, let's try this out. And I'm not saying you might have time or, a whole week to just dedicate to doing all of these things. But if something speaks to you, maybe jot it down or, make that mental note, give it a try and let me know what is working for you right now. What is helping you to decompress? I would love to hear from you. You can always, my email address is always in the show notes. You can always reach me through DMs on Instagram. My handle is Andryanna G, ANDRYANNAG. And I'm going to be sharing some links in the notes for this podcast episode. So it's going to be an incredible resource. So anytime I am referencing, a specific podcast episode or, a specific book, I'm going to throw some notes in some links in the notes for this podcast episode so that you have this resource that you can go to and find all of the goodies. So with all of this being said, I'm not going to give names. I'm not going to share, who these people are, but just know that they are incredibly powerful, brilliant, successful, amazing people. And this is the advice for how to exit overwhelm, how to care for yourself, how to get back in the flow, and how to be there for yourself. So whether you have 10 minutes or you have 10 hours to dedicate to yourself, I want you to take some of this advice, know I'm sending it with love, and do something for yourself. I have a little secret to share. It is my favorite local store, and it's the absolute best place to shop, regardless of whether you're in the north and you're heading there in person, or if you're shopping online. They have a beautiful online boutique. This little secret is called Stitch and Stone. And Stitch and Stone is a female-owned modern fashion boutique, has that subtle touch of boho charm and a sprinkle of magic. And I have so many beautiful items from this shop. I mean, whether it is for a national television segment or if it's to get cozy and curl up in front of the TV, they have, and this is, I'm pretty sure their tagline, a style for every story. So you know me, I love my self-care. Sometimes retail therapy is that dose of self-care and self-love that we all need. And I love Stitch and Stone because their goal is to promote a world of inspiration and inclusivity through unique style. And they want women to feel just as beautiful on the inside as they do on the outside. So with this said, I have a special discount code for you. I want you to check out my favorite shop and I want you to tell me what you think. So you can use the code JUGGLE15 for 15% off your purchase from now until January 15th, 2023. That's right. So you're going to head to stitchandstone.ca to get 15% off your online order using the code JUGGLE15. That's stitchandstone.ca for 15% off your order from now until January 15th using the code JUGGLE15. Trust me when I say that you're going to love it just as much as I do. Now let's get back into the episode. So I'm going to go through a list with different people. But first up, we're talking about some different readings, some different podcasts, and different places of inspiration. So Bob Proctor is a resource and a mentor for all of us who are in this mastermind. And if you go to the notes for this episode, there is a meditation, and it's about 20 minutes, and it's called The Abundance Meditation by Bob Proctor. And it is a great resource for tapping in and just calming and getting quiet and having that pause. So that is a great resource right there. Also, some podcast recommendations. Rachel Rogers She's the author of We Should All Be Millionaires. She was a reco. Hina Khan has a podcast called Possibilities. She's a peak performance coach. And the note was, choose which one by your current mood. There's a lot of different little short snippets and great motivational and inspirational podcasts with possibilities. Another recommendation was Lewis Howes' podcast. I'm not familiar with that one, but I can't wait to dive into it. What else do we have here? Of course, we have our music in terms of changing up the energy and how you're feeling. So putting on some fave tunes, and this person gave some recommendations: Bob Marley, 80s dance music, reggae, Sean Paul, or quote, whatever gets your energy cranked and shifted. So I love that one. I think could be one of the easiest because we always have our phones. You might have your AirPods. Whether you're cooking a meal or you're in your car or you're just out for a walk, putting some music on can really help you shift your energy. There were a lot of recommendations for just diving into a trashy novel, a book that's, not, for work or for self-help or for any of that stuff, but just purely for entertainment. So a romance novel, a murder mystery, something that's maybe a completely different genre that you're totally, not used to reading, something that's going to just, help you mentally get out of your head, escape, take you to a whole new place, and, kind of just let you leave your thoughts behind for that period within the book. And I love to listen to audiobooks as well as, reading hard copy books. So, take your choice, take your pick, whatever's going to work best for you. A lot of us provided the inspiration and the advice to take a freaking nap, like take a pause. It can be 15 minutes, but take a nap. And this person said multiple, like pluralized naps, yes, multiple. So if you need a break, sometimes we turn to our phones and we start scrolling, and it just makes us even more overwhelmed and more exhausted and mentally drains us. So why not just close your eyes for a few minutes and even set a timer, 15 minutes, and just take a quick nap. Our baths, of course, are just a great way to unwind, decompress, relax. Putting some Epsom salts, that magnesium is really great for your muscles. Throwing in some essential oils, lavender, eucalyptus, really just, treating your muscles and having that aromatic experience. Light those candles, turn off the lights, put on some calming music. I've done the Bob Proctor abundance meditation while in the tub. So just throwing that out there. But, that's also another great way to exit that overwhelm. Some more great advice here is to take care of your body through hydration. So make sure you're drinking lots of water. If you want to put some electrolyte powder or something like that, some lemon, hydration is going to be really great, especially if you've been going overboard and having, a few extra drinks during the holidays. Making sure that you are hydrated is going to help you feel better, help you to reset, literally, with your body. Taking those vitamins. We just had our winter solstice, so we're starting to get a little bit more sunshine, a little bit longer days, but we're still in those, it's getting dark pretty early. So taking that vitamin D, maybe getting some sun on your face if you can, B complex, vitamin C, keeping your body healthy is going to be great. Another great tip is thinking about what makes you laugh and allowing yourself to just head into that direction. So it could be, some stand-up comedy on YouTube, looking at, a Netflix special, going and delving into, your favorite movies, looking back at what just made you laugh so much, and maybe streaming or getting a movie that you haven't watched in a long time. Let's see here. What else do we have? One of the members of our mastermind recently just took a trip where she overcame a fear, and she had never gone down a water slide in her entire life. And she nip that one in the bud. And so her advice was to go down a very high water slide. But I think the advice is maybe to do something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, something that might scare you a little, something that's going to, give you that burst of adrenaline and, make you feel that rush and make you feel that excitement. It can be, going skiing or going sliding with your kids, going down a really steep hill, something that's going to be exhilarating. So adding that dose of that boost that you might need. I love this woman in our mastermind, after a lot of this advice of, having naps and taking baths and reading books, she came in with, and she said, I will take a contrary, aggressive, testosterone-filled response. And her advice was, when you're at the end of your rope, yank the effing thing back. It is your rope and you should fight for it. So this advice was so great because it really speaks to, it doesn't have to be, self-care is not all bubble baths and meditation, although it can be, and it is a beautiful part and an extremely helpful part. Sometimes you need to just get a good sweat on. So heavy lift, she said, work out and lift heavy things. Take your anger, frustration, overwhelm, whatever, take it out at the gym or go for a run, do a HIIT class. You can look up something on YouTube. Another piece of advice that she said was do the power pose. So step into your amazingness and get your physiology right here. And she shared a link that I will be sharing with you. So having that power pose is going to be really helpful. And then there is another link shared, and it is called What If You're Afraid of Nothing? And she shares that, and I'm going to share that in the podcast notes with you. And also, just doing things that are going to make you just power through it. So that is the contrary, aggressive, testosterone-filled response. And then I promised you that I would share what my response was. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I just was feeling very supportive, but I have a long list and I can't wait to share it with you. And I also am going to throw in some extra, book recommendations, some things that I really loved over the year. And I'm going to put those all in the podcast notes. So my advice started off with one of the podcast recommendations, and it was a very specific episode. So Hina Khan's podcast, Possibilities. One of my favorite episodes is called Hina's Rallying Cry. It is a short episode, but it is like a list of affirmations that she repeats. And when I need that dose of feeling like myself and feeling powerful and like I have control and, that I am, the incredible being that I am, I head out for a walk and I listen to Hina's Rallying Cry. So please feel free to listen to that one. The link's in the notes. I also love hypnosis recordings, so hypnotherapy, especially if I am going to take, instead of going to take a nap, which sometimes I do fall asleep, I'll listen to, a 15 or 20 minute hypnosis recording. And I have invested in personalized hypnotherapy just for myself, which I get a recording for. But I will also share in the podcast notes a coach called Kelly Maizi, who will be on the podcast next year. But I will share a healing unwind hypno recording with you in the notes. It's a really good one. I love listening to all sorts of self-help. I love listening to podcasts. One of the recommendations that I love to give is a book called The Gap and the Gain, and it is written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. So if you're feeling in a place where, you're just not measuring up, or you're kind of looking to the negative side of things, or you're, having a hard time seeing what that positive is, The Gap and the Gain is an incredible book. It's so powerful. For me, I also love reading, hard actual physical books when it comes to my fun reads. So I read All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox this year for the holidays, which was a super cute, really lighthearted, lovely little read. Probably my favorite fiction reads this year included books by Tara Jenkins Reid. I'm currently reading Daisy Jones and the Six, which is super good. My favorite book this year, probably when it comes to fiction, was Evelyn Hugo, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Such a good read. Like, I was so enveloped in that book. It was such a good read. I'm trying to think. I'll put some more in the notes for this episode as well. So read a good book. And of course, my yoga. I always come back to my yoga. When it comes to loving myself, caring for myself, yoga is where I turn, and it allows me to change up my pace. And whether I'm doing something that involves a lot of power and more quick movement, or whether I'm trying to tone things down and recalibrate and unwind, I can always turn to YouTube and Yoga with Adriene. She has so many incredible resources, and many of you have probably heard of and watched and have completed many of her yoga videos. She always does a 30-day start to the year yoga series, which I'll probably be doing come January. But I did provide some incredible movement videos, easy, low impact, nothing, no crazy vinyasas or anything, but a 20-minute morning yoga that I'll put in the notes, a 19-minute cozy bedtime yoga, and just a 10-minute quick yoga sequence for self-care. Those were my tips and my recommendations, not to mention just straight up doing whatever it's going to take to make you feel good. So these are some of the best recommendations, whether you're feeling like you really need to, take out that aggression, do something that is filled with energy, or you want to decompress by just pausing and winding down. This was a list from my mastermind group that I am so happy to be sharing with you. As we are, closing out this year, something that I have been doing over the last couple of days that has been really, really incredible for me and is helping me to really reflect and see all of the beauty and take the lessons that I've learned from this year. And so this exercise is kind of like a 12-year review. And what you can do is you can grab a journal, some paper, if you like to type notes onto your laptop or into your phone, but you're going to go back over the last year and you're going to go through it month by month, whether, it's in your, calendar on your phone or in your agenda, and you're going to go back month by month and you're going to see what you've done over the last year. And I want you to write a list month by month of what those highlights were. What were some of the great things that happened over the last year, month by month? And if there were things that weren't so great, I want you to write those down too. And I want you to write down next to the things that weren't so great, I want you to write down a lesson, something that you learned, something that you are taking from that experience that is now going to make you smarter, wiser, a better person, having learned whatever it was. And I want you to do that month by month for all 12 months of 2022. Some of the things that I wrote down included celebrating my youngest, his first birthday. Some other things that included some milestones in my business. Some of the television segments that I did this year, the workshop that I hosted for you in November called You First, some of the podcast guests that I had on the Juggle Israel that I was so incredibly honored to interview, as well as some milestones and achievements that my family had, that my son had, some of the experiences that we had as a family, like going on family trips, heading to Europe for 10 days with my husband, just the two of us, and leaving our 3 children home with our incredible family. So this can be an incredibly amazing exercise to do at the end of a year, but you can do it anytime you need, whether it's just to look back at the last month, the last week, the day even. And I want you to look at those incredible things and count your wins, count your blessings, see all of those incredible things. I mean, there were things that came up and I was like, what? I totally forgot about that. Decisions that I made that impacted my business, things that we did that I thought were so scary. I was so nervous about, things that I really had, things that were, fearful for me that I did. And now that I think about them, it's like, you know what, that was no big deal. And I'm so glad I did it. I'm so grateful. And even the things that, weren't so great, the lessons that I'm taking from it, the person who I am now, that is so much better because of having gone through that experience. So if I can impart one thing on you this week in, the 10 or 20 or 30 minutes that you have, go through your calendar, go month by month. I want you to write down those wins, think about the lessons that you've learned. And as you reflect on this year, think about all of those reasons you have to be grateful. And I know there's so many, and I know it's going to just fill your heart up with so much joy. The gratitude is going to be overflowing. And this is a great way to feel. If you need to take some time for self-care, love yourself, prioritize yourself. But as we close out this year, I just want to thank you for listening, for being here, for being part of this community, for taking my advice and bettering yourself and sharing with your friends, your family, all of the things. I am so incredibly grateful. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have this podcast. So I send my love to you. I send so much gratitude and all of the best vibes and best wishes for you to be in a great place as you decompress and reset for next year. Take good care.